Okay, what I want you to do now is the following. Don't open your notes. Don't. We're going to dip into your grey matter and try this out. This is an underutilised experience in general in education. Take out a blank piece of paper and write down anything that you can remember from last session. Anything. But don't talk to anybody. Just delve. Can I ask someone to offer a proposition to a staff member in your school who is not present, based on anything that was done last week? Proposition meaning a recommendation, suggestion, something to think about. To someone in your school that was not here. Did you, for example, go to your school and say anything about what happened here to someone who was not here? And if so, what did you say? Yeah.
I think that what I would have said was that the best outcome is if you use relationship-based discipline with the teaching rather than other kinds of discipline. You're going to get the best outcome with that kind of way.
Okay, the research into discipline would indicate that in the absence of a relationship, you're going to find it really difficult because the kids will not generally become more responsible, and you will find your life locked into some sort of cyclic thing where they misbehave. You react in a way that pushes them away relationship-wise, and they continue to do what they do, and it just gets worse. Okay, so that would be a piece of sort of a recommendation, advice, call it what you like, yeah?
One thing I really liked is when you said they expect to be hated, they don't hate them.
Okay, the assumption, so a piece of advice may well be that part of what feeds into this problem is that challenging children think, or may think, you don't like them before they met you. Because you're a teacher, and teachers don't value them. They mix up valuing and liking. They think teachers don't value them because they don't learn very well, and therefore they may not like them. So you're behind the eight ball from the beginning. They may think you don't like them. You're a nice person, but they're going to take one look at you, and before you open your mouth, they may assume you don't like them, which is really unfair, but it's still possible, given their history. Yeah. Anything else?
Look behind the behaviour, so don't just react. Try and stand back from what's happening.
Okay, try and understand what might be promoting that behaviour, which brings us back to the ABCD type of kids. By the time we get to D, it's going to be really difficult because that's all you've got, what drives the behaviour. Without a knowledge of what drives the behaviour, you're absolutely no use to D kids, because if they control you rather than you controlling them, then things just go from bad to worse, because they will make you be irritated. They will make anyone irritated by a kid in the last 2 weeks? Anyone not irritated by a kid in the last 2 weeks? And I don't mean at home, I mean at school. Anyone not irritated by a kid in the last 2 weeks? Okay. Anyone not feeling challenged, as in, who do you think you're talking to? Kind of challenged. The kid was trying to take over, trying to take away your power somehow. Anyone not feel like that in the last 2 weeks? Anyone not feel hurt or disgusted by a kid in the last 2 weeks? Okay, good. I'm just checking. Anyone not feel despairing? Sort of, you didn't know what to do next, basically. This kid was so sad and you didn't know what to do. Anyone been in that position? Not been in that position in the last 2 weeks? Because they're the four kind of players. When you get to D's, they have four patterns of behaviour, and it's really, really sad because you watch them and they will try and keep you out. They won't, not only will they not respond, they will fight your interest. So if you try and be nice to them, they will pull back or they will get worse, which is one way you know you're making progress. When they actually attack you, you know you're making progress. It's really good. So that's right. So you have to think, for some children at least, what motivates this behaviour. What else came up last week? So really what we've got so far is a recommendation regarding powers at work. And I guess we're still about relationship, because the more you understand where they're coming from, the easier it's going to be appropriate relationship-wise. Because if you're not mad, but you don't see them as angry, you don't see them as horrible, but you see them as sad, then it would already change things. If you actually thought most people who try to hurt you don't feel good about themselves, this includes your colleagues, it would change your mind about how to respond in some ways if you had the presence of mind. Yeah.
Don't underestimate the impact you have on the child.
Exactly, yeah. The research is quite clear there. You are the major instrument in affecting these kids, more so than in school outcomes, more so than any other factors. So don't underestimate how powerful you are in the life of a kid.
A teacher, and I don't know the research, indicated to me when I raised this that there was some recent research that was sort of debunking that to an extent and suggesting that no, it's only really up to about 10%.
No, I'm not familiar with that. I do know that some people are saying that some of that variance belongs to school management. That they grease the rails, whatever the expression, grease the wheels. They make it happen, but what happens in class is what happens. And so what's happening here might affect what's happening in class, but I'm not going to get any of the credit for that. The teacher who changes their behaviour will get that credit in the research. So it's that kind of thinking, I think, that's come up recently in terms of criticising the early research. I haven't heard any sort of challenges on the petitioning of the variance, no. If you find anything, email me. Yeah, that would be really helpful, because there may well be. I mean, once something like this comes up, people will jump out and try and deal with it. The first time someone said rewards do not minimise intrinsic motivation, but actually increase it, right? There was it's really cute. There was a study that said, took 42 studies and decided that if you reward people for a certain behaviour, you will actually not decrease intrinsic motivation, which is what all the theorists would say, but you will increase it. So in that same issue, there were 11 people criticising it. And 2 years later, there were another bunch of people criticising it, and another 2 years after that, there were some more people criticising it, because there are industries and people have vested interests, and they're trying to find mistakes with the research. It's in their interest to find. Everyone makes mistakes, so it's in their interest to find those mistakes and cut that down a bit. So this happens with anything that's that controversial. So the controversial thing now is, why put money into buildings when you should put it into staff? And you should put it into staff development. And in a way, the regions bought that argument, it seems to me. The fact that you're here and all that release time indicates that that's the case. Okay, what else? So you are important, your relationship is important, understanding kids helps you have a decent relationship even when you want to control them. What else have you written? Yep.
Increasing the collective responsibilities.
Okay, the concept of communal and personal responsibility, and I saw that in a number of places, yep. That they should actually be as interested in as you are in people behaving well. The reason is, why should they?
Working in teams and not in isolation, it's a lot more powerful.
As in staff? Yeah, I suppose the same thing with staff, yeah. So staff support is another factor, but I'm going to take you back one. Why should students have a commitment to seeing that others do the right thing? Okay, once you move from rules to rights, if they can be sold on those rights, they should take ownership of those as well as you. Whereas it's much harder to sell ownership of rules, even if the group makes them, or the school makes them, or you make them. You're in a much more difficult position to sell the ownership of that to them and say, I expect you to see that these rules are followed, that people are obedient. Whereas if they accept that people have a right, there are only two, right to be safe and right to learn in the environment, once they accept that, then they should be as committed as you are to seeing that people act responsibly. So that slight shift gives you a lot more power theoretically if they will accept that people have those rights. I've now met some teachers who say they cannot sell that to their children.
I agree with that. It's really hard when you're setting the class boundaries and I write responsibilities and rights up on the board. They say, you're talking about the rules, miss. I said, no, I'm not. Let's talk about this, but they still have that rule in their head.
Yeah, and I think in the first year of this program, people, as I said to you when I interviewed them, I said, can you do anything you like?